We're here for the purpose of the Committee of the Whole. It is 9:10. I'm going to, I see that we have the Red Pledge of Allegiance on here. I think council's okay with not doing it again.
Is it different?
Did it once.
What?
Is it different in any way?
It hasn't changed in the last 2 hours, so we're going to stick with the one we said at 7:30. I'm going to ask Clerk Malone to call the roll.
Bram,
Here.
Palumsky. Here. York.
Here.
Saludo.
Here.
Park. Here. Levin.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
Sabatino.
Here.
Leader, absent. Dunn.
Here.
12 present, 2 absent.
Well, present, 2 absent. We have a quorum on to approval of minutes. 2A is consideration of whether to retain executive session minutes from July 18th, 2019 as confidential. So basically, keep them as confidential. Worded a little goofy, but I will entertain a motion to keep those minutes confidential. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Mulliner. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Malone to call the vote.
Bram,
Aye.
Palumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader, absent. And Dunn.
Aye.
I have 12 ayes and 2 absent. No nays.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries on to November 4th, Committee of the Whole regular meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the November 4th Committee of the Whole regular meeting minutes. Motion by Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman York. Discussion. Clerk Malone.
Bram,
Aye.
Palumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader, absent. I have Dunn, sorry.
Aye.
I have 12 ayes, 0 nays.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries on to agenda item 2C, approval of the November 12th minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 12th. Motion by Alderman Bram. Conversation, discussion. Clerk Malone.
Bram,
Aye.
Palumsky.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader, absent. And Dunn.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 2C, November 12th minutes are approved. On to November 18th minutes. Committee of the Whole regular meeting minutes. I want to entertain a motion to approve the November 18th minutes. Motion by Alderman Sabatino, second by Alderman Levin.
Bram.
Discussion.
Bram.
Aye.
Palumsky. Aye. York.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader, absent. Dunn.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. 2E, November 18th minutes. For the Committee of the Whole regular meeting minutes are approved. On to 2E, November 25th, Committee of the Whole regular meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Brennan, second by Alderman Deuter. Discussion. Clerk Malone.
Bram.
Aye.
Palumsky. Aye. York.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Mulner.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Leader. Absent. Dunn.
Aye.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
12 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 2E, November 25th, Committee of the Whole regular meeting minutes are approved. On to agenda item 3, announcements. Any announcements from the dais? Seeing none, we will go on to public comment. Any public comment? Anybody in the audience at this time wish to address the council? Seeing none, we will go on to 5A, business for the committee. Circle back items. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Grabowski, but it is our intent to hopefully answer all questions, entertain any motions to amend this evening, and then report on, approve the final budget 2 weeks from now.
You are correct, Mayor.
All right. Any questions before we get started? Great, let's jump right in. City Manager.
Thank you. So there were 5 circle back items, and we attempted to answer all the questions or provide information to answer those in a memo that was posted on board docs. With that, do you want to take them one by one, Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So number 1, North York redevelopment, that's TIF 4 area, and that was specifically the roadway improvements. That was on pages 246 and 247 and KEB page 40. And so in 2020, we're proposing to use TIF 4 funds to cover the expenditures of improving Addison Avenue from Diversey Avenue to Wrightwood, a total length of 2,150 feet. This is following our 8-year industrial concrete street resurfacing plan.
Okay, Alderman Bram, I think you had this on the circle back list. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason why I pulled this was to get an understanding on why we would be utilizing TIF funds for street improvements. I know that it's allowed. I'm not saying that it's not allowed by every right, legal and otherwise. We have the right to utilize TIF funds for that. This TIF is still relatively early on in its existence, and there's still a lot of opportunity from a redevelopment or consolidation of properties. So I'm concerned of using TIF funds at this time instead of capital improvement funds for this area until the TIF becomes more mature, like is shown a few years down the road.
Okay. City Manager, any comment?
So we are proposing that basically to get streets paved because our capital fund is pretty low for paving streets. We've already shrunk that from what we'd like to do on just regular paving. And so we thought that use of TIF funds as an eligible project would make sense in this area.
Okay, Alderman Bram.
With that said, I know that we've done this for, formerly known as TIF 1, the downtown TIF. I don't recall if we've done them for other TIFs, and quite honestly, I did not look back in older budget books for that. $240,000 in the grand scheme, either in TIF or in the capital improvement fund budget, is relatively small in the grand scheme of things. I'm just concerned with those monies being utilized for something other than redevelopment. And this is something that is being proposed a couple of years or 3 years down the road as well in 2023. So that's essentially my concern as it is today. I don't know if I have support, but I'll make the motion anyway to, yes.
Well, just make sure you point out what we're motioning to amend, where in our budget, whether it's the CAB or the line item.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to the CAB on page 40, to switch 2020 from TIF 4 funds for that $240,000 to capital improvement funds.
CIP?
Yeah, or CI, that's how it's listed in there.
If I may, I think the appropriate place to,
Oh, okay, well, I guess the city manager's going to help you with a point of order. I don't want to jump Robert's rules. You have a suggestion before the motion's carried through?
yeah, I think the more appropriate place to amend it is on pages 246 and 247 of the operating budget, not necessarily the
Got
CAB.
it? So-
Yeah, I was just gonna, since I was physically on the cab, I thought I would go there and then go back, but
All right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
So roadway improvements on 246, 8015. What you're saying, city manager?
correct.
What are we going to amend there?
That is correct.
What are we going to amend there? We're going to remove it from there and put it somewhere else?
The
Oh, because
appropriate,
that's the TIF spend, so we're going to pull it from there and stick it somewhere else? Or
We-
put the
we would-
spend somewhere else?
we would pull it from there, we'd have to find the money to put into the roadway paving, which would be back in the street paving budget. We'd have to find 240,000 in general fund to move into the
Okay, let me
street.
ask you this. We can remove it from here, right now, without putting it somewhere else? I'm just trying to stack these motions.
Yes, if we don't put it, removing it from here takes it out of the TIF expenditure.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily give us a revenue to pave the street, though, from anywhere else, right now, if we
Right now.
remove it from here.
Okay, so just removing it, we'll have to figure out a place to pay for it, but it doesn't remove the work.
Well, it could remove the work.
Yeah, if we don't say both, we would remove the work.
Or not do the work.
Or not do the work.
All right, well, let's stick with this motion, which, Alderman Bram, correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm looking at the North York Redevelopment TIF Fund on page 246, and your motion is to remove 240,000 from the 2020 projected budget on 18-15, 80-15.
Correct, but the motion would need to include the correct page to plant the 240,000 elsewhere, because I do not want to see the project removed.
Okay. City Manager, you want to tell us where we would stick it? Where would we put the 240? Alderman Bram doesn't want to just remove it and have the project die.
So we're looking up.
Oh,
We're operating off one.
give us a minute.
So the appropriate account number to move it would be the 110-6041, 432-8015.
Do you have a page number, Tom?
Yeah, let me grab that right now. So it would be page 130. The current amount that's budgeted is $2,910,500.
Got it? Oh, we would add it there?
Correct.
Okay. So, I think I want to make this, move along, but I want to get it right. So, the motion is to remove 240,000 from line item 8015, roadway improvements on page 246, and add it to line item 8015 on page 130. Is that a fair
Correct, thank you.
summation of what you're trying to do there, Alderman? All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second? What?
I'm sorry, what was that, where is it going? Into the general fund.
So 246, page
Page
246, 8015 is going into the general fund expenditure, capital outlay, on page 130. So the line item is 2.9 million, you're gonna add 240,000 to that. See that?
Yes.
Great. I'm just entertaining a second now. I will entertain a second. A motion. Alderman Dunn seconds the motion. Discussion. Alderman Bram has laid out his point of view. I'm going to go with Alderman Dunn, since he seconded the motion.
Yeah, in this case, we set up the TIF 4 North York corridor for a developmental thrust. to kickstart that corridor, and I think putting concrete on Addison is not kind of within the objectives of that fund, so I would agree that we shouldn't be using TIF funds to redo a concrete street on a secondary street that just happens to be close to the York Road.
City manager, are we replacing a concrete street, or are we going to put asphalt over a concrete street?
I believe it's curb work and asphalt overlay.
Okay, just to clarify.
Right. Paving a street.
Alderman Mulliner.
I do not support this amendment. I believe TIF funds are very appropriate for this purpose. One of the big things that TIF funds are used is for infrastructure improvement, and one of the things we're attempting to do here is to improve the particular area in TIF 4, and this is one of the areas that is ripe for development. And with the current condition of that street, it makes it so that it's much harder for us to be able to do anything there, so it makes more sense for us to repair that street so that it entices more people to come into the community to look at that area as a potential development opportunity.
Alderman Brennan.
Where would I find the current balance in TIF 4? I mean,
Do you know how much money we got in TIF 4?
44.
how much?
244,000? Oh, 240.
Oh, 244, thank you.
This is
You're right.
fund balance is right here on page 2.
So is this currently, I'm sorry, Mayor, can I?
Yeah, yeah.
So as I look at this, I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Is the 240 already in the ending balance here?
It is in that,
It is.
it's taken out of that as an expenditure.
So if we pull it out, this will go up to 644 roughly.
I did.
Yep.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. I don't support the motion to amend precisely because we are already deficit spending by about $4 million. Adding another $240,000 into the general fund just puts us more in the red, deficit spending more, when we have a viable funding source to pay for a viable project within the TIF. And we will still have dollars remaining in the TIF, even after this project, to do some other things, and then to the tune of $400,000. Thank you.
City manager, quick question for you as it relates to TIF and funding out of TIF. Even if there was no money in the TIF, and we had to expend money on a line of credit or whatever it was, isn't the debt service on that also TIF eligible for funding?
Yes, it is. For TIF-eligible projects.
TIF eligible?
Yes.
Okay. Additional comments or questions? Alderman Brand.
Thank you. I would ask everyone to consider then any street construction, any road improvements in any TIF should utilize TIF funds. That is not how we operate today. We have at times, like I've already mentioned, in the CBD district, but it is not how we operate today. So how do we discriminate on what is a viable project to spend down, as we say, the capital improvement fund, and what is a viable project to spend in a TIF district and utilizing TIF funds? We've done it only on probably less than a handful of occasions, I don't know for a fact, but in regards to the CBD. So if we want to do this, let's move forward and make that policy decision of saying, when roadway improvements need to be done and it's in a TIF district, spend down the TIF instead. because we've been spending down the capital improvement fund for a while now, but we haven't come across that bridge where we said, always go to the TIF first. So why now? Why this project? Why now?
Alderman Mulliner.
Couple of reasons. One is as a funding source, it's an appropriate funding source for a TIF district, as I stated before. The second thing is that when you're funding road projects, you're looking at multiple streams of revenue that are coming in order to fund those projects. So if we set forth a policy that said that we were only going to use TIF dollars within a TIF district, then as an example, if we wanted to repair York Road and Howard was able to go out and obtain state grants or federal grants for it, we would no longer be able to do that if we had a policy that said it was only going to be TIF dollars. So I think we need to be very cautious about setting policies that lock in how we fund things. That's the reason why TIF is there, is so that we can improve areas where they need to be. And when you drive down that Addison Street, this is one of the areas that has got the greatest potential for redevelopment in that entire TIF area. And this is something that's, I'll go back and say what I said before. I think it's totally appropriate. I think if you want to set a policy, that I think that what is necessary is, let's move forward with voting on this particular amendment, and then come forward with a referral at a later date to set that policy.
Okay, additional comments or questions? Bram.
Thank you. I want to clarify because my words were mischaracterized. I did not say only, I said first. First utilize TIF funds, because that's what's being proposed here. I didn't say only, and my policy statement was more rhetorical to utilize it as an example that it hasn't been done in the past for every single project that came across. We haven't gone to the TIF fund for those projects in the past. On occasion, yes, but not time in, time again. So that is not what I said, and I just wanted to make sure that that's clarified. That's not what I said. In regards to, is it appropriate? I already said it's appropriate legally. North York also is an area that needs improvements. It is ripe for opportunity as well. That's where I believe that these dollars at this time should be allocated and move forward with that. We can spend down the $400,000 or $600,000 on all road construction projects going forward. I don't think that should be the priority. It hasn't been the priority of other TIFs, and it shouldn't be the priority of this TIF.
Alderman Toledo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that this was, I'm speaking somewhat on behalf of staff, and it's partly because I'm putting a lot of pressure on staff to make, to weigh projects that we're prioritizing and to find ways to pay for them that doesn't require a property tax increase. So I couch this, I know this is a small component of a very large budget, but I couch this on behalf of staff within the context of the tax levy that we all just approved, a 7% tax levy increase. And this is a creative way to pay for something with funds that are appropriately being used in their area to help improve their area that doesn't further put more pressure on the property tax. I think this is a creative way to pay for this project. The only thing that I would otherwise support is if we don't think this project is a priority, then we shouldn't do the project. But to put it onto the general fund, I can't support that. Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments?
Question.
Alderman Levin.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm trying to see, I can't pull up the TIP 4 reports, but it was the North York redevelopment, and I'm just questioning, I know this is within the area. Are we in fact reprioritizing things so that instead of doing things that we thought we were first doing on York Road, we're doing in Addison, or is this just a different piece of the project that we're doing, not Addison not necessarily is more or less of a priority than York?
So in the KEB on page 92, we have further clarification on your question, Alderman, as to priorities. And so we do have North York Street projected out in 2022 for repaving, and we are proposing to use TIF funds, and also we're hoping that we get some federal grant dollars, some STP dollars to do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
Just another point in the joint review boards that just took place last month for all the TIFs. One of the key metrics was the city investment versus private investment. And, I mean, we're doing very well there, 20-to-1 multiples maybe. And I think we get those when we partner with a developer on an initiative to really develop a property in a key location, especially a keystone location that'll spur other property, other development. I don't think we're going to get that multiple on this road construction. So if you look at a indicator that I think is valuable, I think we're going the wrong way with this one.
Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you. In regards to priority, I agree, there are priorities, but that is my comments already earlier, is how do we discern that this is a priority that should be utilizing TIF funds and other projects should be utilizing the capital improvement fund? The staff, as well as us as a whole, have already said priority A. That's what it's listed as in the CAB. So it is a priority to get done. Therefore, it should move forward. I'm saying it shouldn't move forward with TIF funds. The Edison garage, the maintenance of the Edison garage, for an example, not the best, but an example, we're not using TIF funds there. That's in the downtown TIF. Why not just do all of the maintenance on all the garages in downtown with TIF funds? We don't. Mind you, it's not the best example because we have the parking revenue fund, so it's not the best. But we could use TIF funds. Why don't we use TIF funds? So that is my, I think that's very contradictory to say that, well, we can't draw down the capital improvement fund for this. We might as well use this revenue source when we don't do that across the board. That was why I made the rhetorical question of why don't we just set a policy to go to TIF funds first?
Okay, any new comments? City Manager, you want to add to the conversation?
I do, thank you. So in response to Alderman Dunn's comments, I agree that we're doing very well with our public to private investment, but I would also argue that the public investment usually comes first in a TIF and then is followed by the private development investment. And so I believe that would still happen on Addison Avenue. Regarding Alderman Bram's comments, a couple of things. We have used TIF dollars on the Addison deck to pay the debt for a couple of years. And we've also used TIF dollars in TIF 1, 2, and 3 to pave roads in the past.
Okay. Any final comments? We are voting on a motion to amend the budget to remove remove roadway improvements out of the North York TIF redevelopment fund on page 246 and add it to page 130, line item 8015 roadway improvements there. Everyone clear on what we're voting on? Okay, motion to, a vote to support that motion. Clerk Plum.
Graham.
Aye.
Walensky. No. York.
No.
Caluto.
No.
Park.
No.
Levin.
No.
Kennedy.
No.
Conquest, absent. Brennan.
No.
Mulliner.
No.
Deuter.
No.
Sabatino.
No.
Leader, absent. Dunn.
Aye.
2 ayes, 10 nays, and 2 absent.
2 ayes, 10 nays, motion fails. Any further discussion as it relates to circle back item number 1? Seeing none, we will go on to circle back item number 2. Building Department wages. City manager, what do we got here?
Thank you. This is page 121. We attached a memo. There was a question about code enforcement inspections, and so what we did is put together a memo that lists out the number of complaints we've received, number of enforcement inspections, number of violation notices, how often we monitor construction sites and vacant homes, and then we also broke it down by number of inspections per inspector. One thing I would point out in that, there seems to be sort of an inverse relationship with Phil, the first code inspector, because he switched over to do more building inspections over the last year as we've been transitioning in the building inspection position. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Front wages, full and part-time. All right, Alderman Bram, you pulled this. Questions, comments?
No further questions nor comments.
All right, anyone else? Let us move on to admin wages. I think this was, oh, I don't want to mix them up. Sorry, I was jumping ahead. All right, admin wages, part-time, further discussion. Alderman Bram, page 104. City manager?
I believe this was the part-time communications position that we've proposed.
Part-time communications. What line item is that? Is that going to be on 1002 on page 104?
That is correct.
Okay.
And we attached the draft job description for everybody's reading.
25 hours a week. Alderman Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I touched on this last time we talked about this area in the budget. I have concern about adding another position, albeit part-time. I think that we've made great strides in regards to communication overall from a city perspective. I don't know what other cities or villages do in regards to communication, if they all have communication people or person or not. But at this time, as already been stated by some of my fellow aldermen, spending down our general fund, I don't see a need for an additional staff member for this role.
Okay. Sorry. Additional comments, discussion, or do you want to make a motion?
I'll wait.
Additional comments or Alderman Polomsky?
So there are a couple of points where it's hard for, I think, us as aldermen to see where staff may be needed, and sometimes, just in our experience, we might think they are. I think this is interesting. This is falling under communications because one of the responsibilities is, it says ADA alt tagging, and what that is if you look at our website, if you are somebody who's blind and you use a screen reader, that screen reader will jump around and read it to you, and you can use software to allow you to use your tabs. But wherever there's a photo or an icon, it would describe it to you. So, this is more, I'm thinking of this, maybe this is more of a compliance, like, portion of this role, or IT, and I'm sure there's more pieces I would find in here that aren't truly communication, but I'm just saying this seems to be more than just communication.
Additional comments or questions? Alderman Bram?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion, page 104, line item 10-02. It wasn't stated on what the salary is, so I don't know what to say should be minus, but essentially minus the part-time communication person's salary from the projected 2020 of $107,600.
Okay. Well, let me entertain a motion. Let me entertain a second on that motion first before I go to city staff. We have a motion to reduce line item 1002 on page 104, it's at 107,600. The appropriate amount to eliminate the position as being recommended by staff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Toledo with a second. City Manager, you want to add anything to this?
That budgeted number was 48,000.
48,000. Okay, don't need to amend, I think we know what it is. We're going to go with the motion, so we have a motion from Alderman Bram, second by Alderman Toledo. Reduce that line item 48,000. Discussion. Alderman Toledo.
So a question for staff. You know, I heard the staff's position when this was first presented, and certainly agree that our communications manager has done a admirable job. So this, you know, second is, I want to make sure that we have the opportunity for discussion, which is why I'm seconding. But, you know, would staff say that if this part-time position isn't approved, that you'd be cutting back from our current level of communication?
So it's more so what we're not getting done that we want to get done as part of the communications plan. Cassandra's been doing a great job, but keeping up is part of that problem. It seems that the more communications we improve, the more people want. And so just trying to keep up with that expectation of everything that we're going to keep up with as new apps come out, as we try to monitor new social sites and all that kind of stuff. It's just very difficult. And so this person would be assisting her. Cassandra would still be in charge of all communications. As far as the overall plan, this person would assist her in executing the plan and keeping up with everything that's out there. So it's hard to say what we would or wouldn't do right now.
Sure.
Do we have any, in the course of proposing this part-time position, was there any research done with other communities, and what level of communication they have as it compares to us, and if they do or do not have staff?
So the two communities that I would compare us to, Downers Grove and Wheaton. Downers Grove has a full communication staff, director, and I'm not sure of the exact number under that person, but it's at least 3 people. And Wheaton has 4 full-time people and 2 part-time people.
Thank you.
Polonsky?
Thanks, Mayor. Just going through here, again, there are a number of, I'm also looking to try to reduce, but I feel like this does touch on some of the issues that have been raised that we've not addressed. For example, when we have looked at the communication plan, when we looked at our websites, web pages and our website, there are inconsistencies, there are documents that people can find that are old. There's a lot of jumping around to try to get, let's say, the minutes from a commission versus minutes from the committees, and just all of that alignment is something that, we've been told, oh, well, we'll get to it, but again, I think maybe it's a little bit misleading unless the idea is to emphasize just a communication piece. Part of this really falls under IT, I think. I mean, this just seems to be another big position with the way it's worded right now. I'm saying all these issues need to be addressed. And I understand if there's concern to say, well, should we really be adding another communications person? I just am looking at this as a staff person to handle more IT also.
Yes, City Manager.
I agree with you, Alderman. There's quite a crossover in today's communications with IT. A lot of it is electronic, of course. And as I recall, our strategic IT report said that we should add IT staff as well. I think this is a good crossover in a portion of that, not everything that we need to do from the IT side. But the maintenance of the website, as you pointed out, is an excellent place where this person will be able to help out. And that's our goal, is to find somebody who is definitely IT savvy, social media savvy to help.
Alderman Dunn.
I have to admit, when I saw this last week, I was a bit surprised we were going to add half a head. I remember a few years ago when we had a lot of discussion on the need for a communications manager. I think it didn't go through the first year. Finally, it was brought up the following year, and council pursued it. We hired somebody, he stayed a little while, and then we got Cassandra, who's doing a great job. So to go from 0 to 1.5 in a very short period of time caught my attention. I'm okay with the position. This position doesn't get benefits. It's not pensionable. I think we can get more bandwidth out of Cassandra and the rest of the organization with this help. So I would support keeping it in there for those.
Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I agree that we've come a long way in a short period of time. I absolutely support this half-person addition. I think 6 years ago when I was elected, one of the things that really surprised me is that we had no one doing communications. So we have someone, she's doing an incredible job. As I was hearing Mike Kopp describe the activities that she is currently responsible for, I mean, it could have been the list assigned to a staff of 10. I mean, I think she is really doing an incredible amount of work. I think it's unsustainable to expect one person to maintain that and the increasing demand. So I support this. I think it's great and hope that it keeps up the great work of our communications.
Additional Alderman Brennan.
Yeah, so I also support this. I think, when I look at my business, when things are going really bad, there's a breakdown in communication. And I think, given, the reputation of so many of our programs and the change in the landscape with respect to how people consume information, I think it's impossible for one individual in a timely fashion to really accomplish what ideally it would be a missed opportunity if, because so much of communication, it comes down to timing. And it's disheartening when we have good programs and you talk to residents, they're like, oh, I didn't know about that. So I think part of this, and what I would love to see from staff in the future is that, to help us understand with this incremental investment, what are some of the KPIs that we're able to achieve with this? It's very clear to me that it's a big job and there's a lot to get done. I mean, this job description spells that out. But we have so much demand on one person to be timely. And so when everything all hits at once, the quality and timeliness of good communication's almost impossible. So I think adding this part-time resource will allow us to drive a high-quality end product, through this group. So I'm in strong support of this.
Additional comments? I have a question, and I've been trying to find it, and I can't find anything. I'm trying to recall from my days as an alderman. When I'm chairing a committee of the whole meeting, do I get to talk?
Yeah.
I think I do.
Yes, you can pass the gavel technically, but
No,
No, you
this is
don't
a
have
committee
to.
It's a
meeting.
committee, so
Yeah, it's a
technically,
committee.
that's what I was looking for. I don't see it in
Answer's
here,
no.
but I can find it in General Robert's Rules. I'm going to take the opportunity, unless I hear objection from council. You guys are kind of skirting around the issue a little bit, and the one thing I would add, or the way I would put it together would be, Cassandra is a department by herself, and every time any department, police, fire, IT, finance, anybody needs some sort of type of formal communication, it goes to her. She's buried, she does an unbelievable job. There is, Jim mentioned a couple, there is easily enough work to do 2.5 people in this job. Now, I'm pretty fiscally conservative, and Council will recall, when I first got on the dais, I was all about chopping heads, and still am about reducing head count. So in my opinion, it has to be pretty spectacular, the need, in my opinion, for me to support adding this. It's part-time, they don't get benefits. This is, there's 2.5, 3 FTEs for this job alone, if we really analyzed it. And I will say this, and some council members have mentioned this. I interface with Cassandra 10 times a week, and that's just me. I know that she has every department pulling her from every which direction, not to mention that, quite frankly, she's the leader in town when it comes to overall public communication. She really is looked at from all those other public bodies we mentioned in the past. So she's invaluable. The last thing I want to do is burn her out. I mean, she is balancing a family. She's fantastic. I would encourage folks to give her the support that she's asking, or that I think she needs. Alderman Levin.
Mayor, I think you have a good point, and, one of the things, if you go back before we had Cassandra, each department was trying to scramble, I think, pretty much to do their own communications, and there wasn't necessarily anyone who was expert at it there. So when we see something happening in the police department and there's a press release that goes out, now it's done by Cassandra, and she's, if it's public works, if there's an emergency or fire, she's always the one you call. So she's really, we haven't grown the police department really, or the fire department, in I don't know how long, but this is really a position, hers, and if this one is passed, that supplements all of the departments. And I'm all about those KPIs. I had to look it up, but okay.
Sorry, Alderman.
Alderman York, you want to tell us what a KPI is?
No, actually, I just asked Alderman Toledo. So I agree with everybody. The other thing that I think that we don't realize what's happening too is the events that go on here in town that she's publicized, like Rock the Block's the 4th year, 5th year, or something like that, the bike race, 7 years. These are all things that have come online, and we've done a really good job. Explore Elmhurst has done a really good job of getting that out there into the community. I think drawing awareness and everything to the community, which then brings people in to have dinner, stay the night, and so on and so forth. So I'm very supportive of this, and this is the way to do it. I think sometimes in situations like this, if we needed to grow at some point in time, we grow with another 1 or 2 part-time people and get different perspectives and different skill sets and so on and so forth. So I'm very much in support of this.
Additional comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you. Just to touch on a few comments that were already made, one of which being some of the job duties kind of leaning more towards IT versus communications. I mean, I do see that as well. I think Alderman Polumsky stated that. But what we're looking for here is someone with a communications or PR background. So are they able to do that or not? I don't know, but what the job qualifications are stating is communications, public relations, journalism. So to me, that is a communications person and not an IT person, and I would think that it may be a stretch to think that they would be able to take care of or handle some additional IT tasks. With that said, in today's day and age, we all know, as we all have cell phones in our hands, that Alderman Levin just put his down, picked it up. We get communication via various avenues, various social media, various emails, phone calls, texts, et cetera. That should lessen the burden, in my mind. Electronics or software or internet or social media, all those things are to assist us in providing communication to everybody in every manner possible. From one platform to the next, be it social media or an email, no matter what that press release is, it's not going to change. It's going to be communicated over and over again. So I don't see that being an extra burden, and I don't see that being done by anybody other than IT to push those out. On social media, I look at posts from the police department, fire department, pretty much every possible department and entity here in the city of Elmhurst. And it's evident to me, and this is anecdotal, but it's evident to me that these posts, especially the fire department, are not posts that are going through Cassandra. These are posts that are driven by the fire department themselves. And this is just my perspective on it by looking at the post. So I think the direction we're going is the utilization of the internet and social media is the opposite, not to add more staff, but to lessen the burden on staff and lessen the staff headcount overall. Like I already said, we've already started to grow, and I don't know what the future holds, but we have grown our IT department, at least I think from a project manager's perspective is what we just added. So it's not that we're not keeping our pulse on what the IT needs are. This is nothing against Cassandra. This is all about just adding additional dollars, which I don't see the need for today. I think maybe we should look to see what we can do differently to alleviate the current communication person's tasks and maybe do it a different way that would make it more efficient. I don't have any suggestions to that, but I don't see the rationale to add these dollars today.
Okay, any additional comments? Alderman Palomsky.
Quickly, I don't want to veer too far from this, but in talking about this topic, I would like to, for the future, see if there are ways in which we could somehow work more closely with the library. I understand that they have their own board, they set their budget, but we are up here trying to find ways to reduce, keep the levy flat, and for example, if we're going to be looking at Metropolitan Family Services, which includes 2 days a week of a social worker, the library hired their own social worker last year. Are there any ways for us to collaborate with them to reduce some of the funds that we spend on headcount? So, thanks.
Any additional comments? Alderman Brand.
Yeah, just the last comment, because I know the city manager provided examples, and I don't have any examples of other towns. But I do know, and I know that Glen Ellen is significantly smaller in regards to total number of residents, but I do know that they have one individual, and I don't know if that for some reason I want to say that individual is part-time, but I'm not sure. It might be a full-time position. So there are communities that don't have more than one individual, and I may even go out on a limb and say, don't even have a full-time individual for this type of position.
Okay. It's 10 o'clock. We have 2 more to go after this. Any additional new comments? All right. We have a motion before us to remove, what's that amount? 48,000, I think, was the number? From the budget. Line item 10-02 on page 104. Clerk Malone.
Bram.
Aye.
We have to vote? Yeah, it's a motion.
Palomsky.
Sorry, stop.
Oh. Sorry.
Question before I call for the vote? Okay. Clerk Malone.
Need to take the money out of the budget.
Okay.
We are voting on the motion to remove the part-time position from the budget and the corresponding salary.
Great.
Clerk Malone.
Bram.
Aye.
Palomsky.
No.
No.
Bluto.
No.
Park.
No.
Levin.
No.
Kennedy.
No.
Conquest. Absent. Brennan.
No.
Mulliner.
No.
Joyder.
No.
Sabatino.
No.
Leader absent. Dunn.
No.
I have 1 aye, 11 nays.
1 aye, 11 nays. Motion fails. Any additional discussion on this circle back? On to elected officials. Circle back number 4. Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The information provided is complete and suitable, so I have no further comments or questions.
All right, any additional conversation? All right, on to agenda item 5,
We will be.
which was an Alderman Honquest circle back. City Manager, I know Alderman Honquest is not available tonight. Did you have a chance to talk with him about this?
We tried to connect, we weren't able to do so before tonight. I'm happy to reach out to him again to see what information he's looking for.
Okay. Technically, I believe we didn't used to allow it, but we now do by our code. If there is an amendment that needs to be made 2 weeks from now, we can make it at that time. So happy to continue the conversation if necessary. Anything else before we wrap for the evening? I will remind council that we are required by law to pass a budget by the end of the year, and I hope to see everybody 2 weeks from now. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderman Deuter, second by Alderman Kennedy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can you come by Zine?
You guys are all out.